Hey guys, welcome back to our study, Unchained, Living Free from Surprisingly Common Addictions. This week we're talking about Chapter 3, I'm Saved but Hooked. This chapter deals with substance abuse and how misplacing our worship can lead to an addiction that's not only mental but biological as well. In this session, we'll discuss how to fight the battle of drug and alcohol addiction so that you can live free. Let's dive in.
All behavior is purposeful. So whatever the behavior is at the bottom, there's a reason that people act the way they do. So if you're asking specifically about substance abuse, if somebody is alcohol or drugs or prescription pills, so you look at that, and what we have found that if people are abusing these type of substances, it's usually because of something that's in their past or something that they're dealing with. They want to make themselves numb so they don't have to deal with it and have to face it. So we try to find out where the wound is. We believe that the wound is going to drive the behavior. So that's what we find with Christians. And if we just talk about it from a whole, we want people to open up about why it is I choose that way of life, if that makes sense. The three categories that we find are the most dominant when it comes to wound, and usually it's one of these three all the time, and that's neglect, abandonment, and abuse. So if we can talk about that, now those are three powerful words. So right now we're telling or asking Christians, are you willing to open up or at least explore one of those options? Are you willing to talk about what may have happened in order that we can find what drives this behavior? These are some really powerful words, and behind them are powerful choices. Some things we've chose to do, and some things have happened to us that we didn't choose. It just happened, and that's when it gets really tough. So if somebody was abused when they were young, you can't help what happened to you when you 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but you're having to deal with that, and that may be something that you've carried for a long time. Maybe a mom or a dad treated you a certain way, and so you came to believe that's the way you were. That's what you deserved. Now, right there, we're talking about neglect and abuse. Maybe mom and dad got divorced when you were young, and you didn't understand that. So you feel like, what happened? Is something I did? Where's mom? Where's dad? So we grow up with these things. And I say these things, we call them negative core beliefs. We believe we're less than, we're defective, and that's how we see ourselves. You may we ask people, how do you think others see you? Well, they're never going to measure up, they're never going to be this, they're never going to be that. Well, how do you think God sees you? And then you can find that, hey God, where were you when I was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and why did this happen? So I just covered a gamut of examples under those three categories. Now, it's not always one of those examples that I just discussed, but you kind of see how the format goes. There's a reason we act the way we do. You're in these things called small groups, okay? Do you really have to do life up under the category you're doing it in? If you say, hey, my life's fine, I'm good, I don't need any help. Well, I would say, I would really question your walk in such a manner is, why are you doing this by yourself? And so why can't small groups be a time of intimacy, a time to where we just take off the mask and go, hey, you know what, guys, this is what I'm dealing with, because I don't think we were made to do this alone. And that's kind of, I know that it rambles a little bit, but I just want you to understand that everybody's got something. So why can't we do this together as Christians?
These promises I trust, 'cause my Savior's rolled a stone away. These chains don't weigh that much.
Hey guys, Kevin Mills here, and I'm glad that you're here for session 3. When we hear the word addiction, our minds usually assume one thing: substance abuse. And there are two usual suspects that we associate with addicts, aren't there? Drugs and alcohol. There's a good reason for that. Listen to these numbers. 46% of adults in America say that they have either a close friend or a family member who has a drug addiction, either currently or in their past. mean, 46%. I mean, that's nearly half of Americans saying that they know someone personally who struggles with drug addiction. And think about this statistic. Alcohol abuse costs the American economy around $250 billion a year. I mean, that's billion with a B. And substance abuse addiction is particularly tricky because it's not just a mental battle, it's a biological one as well. I mean, there are certainly physical and physiological issues that must be addressed when confronting substance abuse. Although it happens, most addicts can't just ask God one time to take away their desires and instantly find themselves free from alcohol or drugs. For most, it is a long and difficult road, and often it involves the help of medical professionals. But see, it is a spiritual issue as well. I mean, that is what we see in the book of 1 Corinthians. In chapter 10 and verse 13, we read this verse. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. Now we read that verse and we hear that promise and we often think, okay, I know this is a promise of God and so I guess it's got to be true, but sometimes it doesn't exactly feel true in my life. I mean, there are some temptations that seem to be just too hard to resist. And I would guess that this is the most true for someone who is a follower of Christ but finds themselves addicted to some kind of substance. I mean, the way out God provides certainly isn't easy or quick and sometimes may not feel like a way out at all. Now, when you look at the historical context behind this promise of God, you will find several stories related to the Israelites and their misplaced worship. Instead of having their affections focused on God, they began to worship their own physical desires. I mean, ultimately, their misplaced worship led to a lot of lives being destroyed. This is the same thing we see in our society today. Our wrong worship will destroy lives. But by addressing both the root of the problem and the symptoms, it is absolutely possible to find freedom from substance addiction. For the person who finds that they are chained to some kind of substance, the battle has to be fought spiritually as well as physically. In your group discussion, you'll get the chance to talk through this issue and at a deeper level really explore how you can make sure that in your own life you are free from substance addiction or how you can be a help to others who are struggling with this issue. And I hope you guys have a great meeting.